Hello, Sagittarius. Thank you very much for tuning in to this week's read. For the main part of the read, I'm using the Gendron Tarot by Melanie Gendron. There's a website on the box here. It is usgamesinc.com. Feel free to check that out if you would like to. Supportive oracle cards are Energy Oracle cards by Sandra Ann Taylor. Website on the back here is hayhouseradio.com if you freeze frame. There's also a few others on the inside here. Feel free to freeze frame on any of those, of course, if you would like to search any of those out. Okay. What do we have for Sagittarius? Sagittarius. My first thought was it's all lining up. Okay. It's all lining up. We'll see. It is all lining up. Are you worried about something? Are you annoyed with something? What's going on? Somebody started this and they walked away. That's not okay. Hold on. Is that right? Somebody started this situation and then they just walked away. Are we sure? Knight of Swords, and then the Strength card. They just went on to something else. Knight of Swords is kind of weird. Kind of like, I don't feel like they communicated that well. Maybe they were planning this the whole time. They got bored of the situation. They didn't feel like it was going where they wanted it to, so they went on to something else. Now that leaves you having to decide what you're going to do with it now. Because it seems like it left you kind of high and dry. There's other energies I want to go towards. Okay, I'll do this first. The base of this whole thing is like, you now have to decide, first of all, if you want to be a part of this situation. Addressing that and coming to terms with that puts everything else into perspective. And I feel like for some of you that's really hard. Because it's kind of like, I almost feel like, well, I don't really have a choice. I have to do it. But they're saying, okay, step back from that and allow yourself to answer that question. If you didn't have to do it, if you literally didn't have to, say the other person was still here and they would take over. If that was happening and they would take over, would you want to stay or would you want to leave? And I feel like some of you would answer that kind of like, well, if they were still here, this would be a different situation and I would want it. But without them a part of it, no, I don't want it. Maybe more, well, if that's the answer, then that's the answer. But they're saying you have to come to that first spot where you have to decide if you could walk away. Say the same person wouldn't come back and take over. Maybe somebody else would step in and take over. And you wouldn't have to be responsible for it anymore. If somebody else would take over, would you want to stay or would you want to go? If you could do that, you could get somebody else to take over. Would you still want to stay or would you want to go? Okay. Because you got a long-term decision to make here. And this is going to set the stage to decide what you want to do. It may not be as simple as just walking away, but it may help you realign your responsibilities so that this is more comfortable for you. I feel like there's a lot of going on here inside your head. Like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with this because this did not go where I thought it was going to go. And I'm not quite happy about it initially. The other person walking away, this is just how you feel. I don't see you having a conflict, but I feel like I'm very upset with it. I'm not happy that this is how this worked out. I do want to say something. I don't feel like you're going to say something, but you want to say something. Some of you might say something. I'll give you that. True. Obviously. You know what you're going to do. But I feel like most of you are thinking about it and not going to actually say something. But it's kind of like I have to start sorting through the conflict. And the first step is to decide if I was allowed to walk away from this, Would I want to, or would I want to stay? That's the first step in resolution. Is what I'm getting. I mean, there's a general read. Take it with a grain of salt, of course. There's okay. We're dealing with something here. Because the current energy is like I'm holding on because I feel like I have to. Page of Cups and the Hanged Man reversed. So for the current moment, I do see you holding on and doing what you need to do, holding up to your responsibilities. I don't think that's going to be a shock for those of you this is hitting for. But something is going to change. There's a change coming forward. There's definitely a change coming here. Unexpected. But as you're doing what you need to do, you're holding things together like you do. So Sagittarius just does that sometimes. You just hold things together because they need to be held together. You just keep moving it. You just don't overthink it. You just do it. Bum, 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 bum. I want a little bit more information. So can we just roll the dice on this before I show these cards? Four of Wands is in... Well, it's kind of in question. It's halfway here, halfway there. And then the Empress also kind of like halfway here, halfway there. You're having an opportunity. You could... I feel like even... I know it says walk away and it's the Six of Swords. I don't know. Is it the 6 or 5? That's the 5 of Swords. All right. Because I was like, I didn't feel 6 of Swords there. That's good because it's not the 6 of Swords. It's actually very helpful. 5 of Swords is like the fruitless win. You do have an opportunity to change the structure of the situation. You could bring somebody else into this and lessen your responsibilities if you so desire. There is this option to lessen your responsibilities here. But with the 5 of Swords there, it's kind of like, do I really win if I do that? It's hard. It's like you need to know before you get here if that's what you want. You just have to answer that question for yourself. Is that what I really want? I don't know about completely walking away. I know it says walking away, but I don't feel like that's quite on point. I feel like it's more like lessening of responsibilities, making this much more comfortable for you. Again, this is something, the possibilities are coming down the road later. It's like they're saying you need to know if you want this or not before it shows up. So I'm going to be fair. I do see like a custody thing here. And I feel like that might be very hard for some of you. Especially because it might be like, if you're a parent, and you're like, well, yeah, but they're my child. I'm obviously not going to walk away from them. That's why I'm saying like this is weird. But maybe it's kind of like, I don't want full custody. Maybe even though you love your child, they're a lot to handle. Just put it that way. They're a lot to handle. Would you prefer part-time custody, half and half? Would you prefer, like, you have them 30% of the time, somebody else has them 70% of the time? There's no wrong answer. It's just what you honestly want. Because you may be able to get that. So, because I get, like, totally that's why I keep getting this totally walking away thing. I don't feel that. But if you start off with full custody because somebody else just kind of walked away and then you just have full custody or taking care of everything. But you're like, well, I'd prefer, like, if you come to it and you're like, you know what, half and half would be better for me. I think that would make me happy. Or maybe even, like, you know, if I just had them once every other weekend, that would be for me. Doesn't mean anybody's right or wrong, but if that would be easier for you, if that's what you want, just keep that in mind, make that up. You don't have to tell people about that. Just know that that's what you want and keep that in mind moving forward, because then things come forward later. You may be surprised, but you may have an opportunity that you clearly weren't thinking was going to happen. Nobody's wrong for wanting what they want. It's just when the moment comes forward, if the other person wants full custody and you're like, you know what, actually I'm okay with that, you already know that before you get there, you can move forward as you need to, and it doesn't have to be that bad. I hate using the custody thing, but it keeps popping in, so I'm letting it happen. It doesn't have to mean it's going that way for whoever this is. It's a general read, however it applies to you, to just apply it to whatever situation. Because the gate is here. The 7 of Wands for me is like, it literally looks like they're walking up to the gate, but that's like kind of like, now that the gate is here, where do I want to be in relation to this gate? It's like you're in control of the gate. You allow who comes in and who goes out. Seven of Wands to me is that. It doesn't mean you have to keep people on the other side of the gate, but the question is, now that you're up to this gate, who do you want here? Who do you want there? What do you want to happen with this gate? Because that's what's coming up for you. I don't know what that sound was. Strength card, and then the Nine of Swords. It's on its side, though. So I feel like what they're saying is, like, if you get to this point and you already know you've already gone through this thought, I don't think the stress is going to be that bad, because you're already going to be like, well, this, I already thought this out. I already thought through this before I even thought, before I know there ever was going to be a possibility, I already thought this out and I knew what I wanted if it showed up. And now that it's here, I already made peace with what I want, so I can move forward fairly stress-free. If you wait for it to show up before you do that mental journey, I feel like I'm supposed to make a decision like in a week or so, which is very heavy. It feels like, I know it may sound easy, but to me it doesn't sound easy. Whatever this is, it feels like a week is a really short period of time. You got a lot going on, you're very busy, and by the time you get to the deadline, you're like, oh crap, now I got to make a decision. It's like an hour before I need to make this decision. I need to make up my mind now. Then there's a lot of stress if you're kind of crammed into that little window. So I feel like that's what this reading is. If this reading is really hitting for you, that's the purpose of this. To work out the thought, to think through the things way before you even think you have a possibility, to work out that possibility. That way when it does show up, you already know what you want. It's not that big of a deal. It's smooth sailing because you already made peace with it. Versus like the cramming. It's like cramming for a really big test. It's kind of like there's a lot of stress, a lot of action. You got to live with your results, whatever you choose. You know what I mean? I think it's it. All right. Hopefully that helps. Thank you for watching. If you'd like a direct reading from me, shoot me an email, jamesforastral@gmail.com. That's James, the number 4, astral@gmail.com. If you're interested in the donation information, that's below, same email. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.